At Thanksgiving, I was gone 10 minutes, left the dining room to take a phone call, came back, and heard them arguing about percentages. Not my health, not my happiness, not even the damn stuffing. My money, and how it should be divided. Lori said she deserved 40% because she's always had the hardest time. David said he'd managed the family name better. My mother actually asked who had power of attorney. That was the moment everything clicked. I'd spent my whole life earning peace, building something real, just so they could try and cut it up like a birthday cake before I was even gone. So I showed them what they almost inherited, and let them watch it all slip away. But before I tell you about that Thanksgiving, the one that ended with my entire family learning they'd been written out of my will, you need to understand something. This wasn't about revenge. This was about finally accepting what I'd known since I was 12 years old to my family. I was never a person. I was a resource, a safety net, a backup plan when their real lives fell apart. And for 38 years, I let them believe that was all I'd ever be. My name is Camille Dawson, and if you met my family at a country club or church function, you'd think we were the picture of success. My father, Robert, owned a mid-sized accounting firm in Connecticut. My mother, Janice, was on every charity board that would have her. My older brother, David, was the golden boy, high school quarterback turned successful real estate agent. My younger sister, Lori, was the baby, the creative one, the one who was always finding herself. And then there was me, the middle child, the quiet one, the one who somehow always had her homework done, her room clean, her problems solved before anyone noticed she had them. In the Dawson family hierarchy, I was furniture. Reliable, functional, easy to ignore until you needed something from it. David got the glory. Every touchdown, every mediocre report card that showed improvement, every girlfriend he brought home was treated like a state visit. Dad would actually leave work early for David's games. Mom would spend hours planning dinners to impress David's dates, even the ones who lasted 2 weeks. Lori got the sympathy. She was sensitive, which was code for can't handle reality. Failed math, the teacher didn't understand her learning style. Fired from another job, the corporate world just couldn't appreciate her creativity. 32 years old and living in mom's basement, she was just taking time to heal from her various traumas, most of which seemed to involve people expecting her to show up on time. And me? I got the expectations. Straight A's weren't celebrated, they were assumed. Full scholarship to MIT wasn't an achievement, it was what we always knew Camille could do if she applied herself. Starting my own company at 25 wasn't impressive, it was risky. And why couldn't you just work for a proper firm like David's friend's cousin? Quick pause here. If you grew up being the reliable one, the one who never needed help, the one whose achievements were treated like foregone conclusions, while your siblings got celebrated for basic functioning, hit that like button. You weren't invisible. You were load-bearing, and there's a difference. The company I started, it was a health tech startup focused on making medical records portable and secure. Boring, right? That's what my family thought when I tried to explain it at dinner once. David actually yawned. Mom changed the subject to Lori's new boyfriend, who sold essential oils and definitely wasn't in a pyramid scheme. What they didn't know, because they never asked, never listened, never cared, was that 3 years later, I sold that boring company to a major healthcare corporation for $42 million. The day the deal closed, I sat in my lawyer's office in Manhattan, watching numbers that didn't seem real hit my account. My first thought wasn't about the money, it was about whether to tell my family. My second thought was remembering the last time I'd tried to share good news with them. It was my 30th birthday. I just secured our Series B funding, $15 million in venture capital. I was so excited I actually drove the 3 hours to Connecticut to tell them in person. When I walked in, they were all gathered in the living room, champagne glasses in hand. For one stupid, naive moment, I thought they were celebrating me. They were toasting David's promotion to senior sales associate, a title that meant nothing and came with a $3,000 raise. "Oh, Camille," Mom said, noticing me. "Grab a glass. David's moving up in the world." I stood there, keys still in my hand, while my father made a 10-minute speech about David's potential and how proud he was to have a son following in his business footsteps. When he finally wound down, I mentioned my funding. "That's nice, dear," Mom said. "Very technical. David, tell her about the new territory you'll be managing." I left an hour later. They didn't notice. So when I sold the company, I didn't tell them. I moved to a brownstone in Brooklyn, invested most of the money, started angel investing in other startups, and built a life that had nothing to do with the Dawsons of Connecticut. But I couldn't completely cut them off. Trauma bonds are weird like that. You know the scorpion's gonna sting you, but you keep carrying it across the river anyway. I started helping them quietly, the same way they'd always treated me, invisibly. When Dad's accounting firm started struggling, I had a friend throw some contracts his way. When Mom's charity needed donors, I gave anonymously. When David's real estate career inevitably imploded, turns out charm doesn't replace showing up to appointments. I had connections refer clients to him. And Lori? God, Lori. Every crisis was a four-alarm fire. Every setback was the universe conspiring against her. She needed money for training courses that would definitely lead to careers. Reiki healing certification, life coach licensing, yoga teacher training in Bali that was absolutely essential for her spiritual growth. I paid for it all, funneling money through Mom, so Lori wouldn't feel patronized by her successful sister, because even taking my money had to be about protecting Lori's feelings. The thing that killed me? Not once, did any of them ask how I was doing, how I afforded to help, whether I was okay. I was just Camille, the reliable one, the one who somehow always had her shit together, the one who didn't need anything from anybody. If you've ever been the family ATM while simultaneously being the family ghost, drop a comment. Sometimes I wonder if being needed and being invisible are just two sides of the same coin. Then came last Thanksgiving. I almost didn't go. My assistant had to physically push me out of my office. It's one dinner, she said. How bad could it be? Sweet, naive Jennifer. She had a functional family. She didn't understand that some dinners are emotional terrorism with side dishes. But I went. Drove up in my Tesla, which I told them was a rental, wearing my usual family dinner camouflage, J.Crew, nothing too expensive looking, carrying my traditional contribution wine that was good but not suspiciously good. The house looked exactly the same. Same beige walls with Mom's Live Laugh Love decals. Same formal dining room we only used twice a year. Same plastic-covered furniture that screamed, "We have nice things, but we're afraid to use them." David was already there, 3 bourbons deep, talking loudly about some deal he was definitely going to close next week. His wife Jennifer, yes, another Jennifer, was nodding along with the glazed look of someone who'd heard this story before. Their kids were destroying the basement, while everyone pretended not to notice. Lori arrived an hour late with her new boyfriend Marcus, who was definitely different from all the others because he was an entrepreneur. His business? Crypto trading. Of course. Camille, Mom air-kissed me like I was a casual acquaintance. You made it. We weren't sure you'd come, with your little job keeping you so busy. My little job. I just funded a breakthrough diabetes treatment, but sure. Little job. Dinner started normally. Dad carved the turkey with the ceremony of someone performing surgery. Mom fluttered around, making sure everyone knew she'd made everything from scratch. She hadn't. David dominated the conversation with stories about clients who definitely existed. Lori performed her usual dramatic monologue about how hard her life was. Then my phone rang. It was my lawyer, which was unusual for Thanksgiving Day. I should take this, I said, stepping out onto the back deck. The call was brief but important. One of my investments had gone public that morning in Tokyo. My stake was now worth an additional $8 million. He was calling to discuss tax strategies. I stood on that deck, looking at the backyard where I'd spent so many childhood hours, alone, while David had friends over, and Lori had Mom's attention, and felt nothing. No joy about the money, no sadness about the memories, just nothing. The call took maybe 10 minutes. When I walked back into the dining room, the energy had shifted. They were huddled around the table, voices low but urgent. I stopped in the doorway, instinct telling me to listen before announcing myself. I'm just saying, David was saying, 40% is more than fair. I'm the oldest. I have kids. Your kids have 2 parents. Lori shot back. I'm alone. I need security. You're 32 and live with Mom, David said. That's not alone. That's freeloading. Both of you, stop, Dad interrupted. The important thing is making sure everything's structured properly. We need power of attorney before. Before what? Mom cut in. Before she finds out we know? My blood turned cold. She's not stupid, Mom continued, but she's also never been good with confrontation. If we frame it right, like we're trying to help her manage everything, she'll probably just agree. The house alone has to be worth what? 3 million? David was practically salivating. Plus whatever else she has invested. 40 million, at least, Lori said. I saw an article about that company she sold. She probably thinks we don't know, but Marcus found it online. My hands were shaking. Not from sadness, from rage. The question is timing, Dad said, his accountant brain spinning. We need to approach this carefully, maybe express concern about her being alone, no husband, no kids. Suggest she needs family oversight. For her own good, Mom added quickly. It's really for her own good, right? David agreed. I mean, what does she know about real money? Tech is so volatile. She needs family guidance. That's when I walked in. The silence was immediate and absolute. They all turned to stare at me, and for one beautiful moment, I watched them try to calculate if I'd heard them. The panic in their eyes was almost worth the 38 years of neglect. Almost. Don't stop on my account, I said, taking my seat. Please continue dividing up my estate. I'm dying to hear who gets what. Mom recovered first, laughing that fake laugh she did at charity events. Camille, sweetheart, we were just planning my financial future, discussing power of attorney, debating whether 40% is fair for David. I pulled out my phone. Should I call my lawyer? Make it official? You're misunderstanding, Dad said, using his stern accountant voice that used to terrify me as a child. We're concerned about you. Concerned. I let the word hang there. About me. When was the last time any of you were concerned about me? That's not fair, Lori whined. We're your family. Are you? I asked. Because family usually knows things about each other. So let's test that theory. David, what's my middle name? David's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Mom, what was my major in college? She looked at Dad for help. Lori, name one friend of mine, just one. Silence. Dad, what's my company called? The one I sold? He actually had the audacity to look offended. How are we supposed to know if you never tell us anything? I tried, I said quietly. God, I tried. But every time I opened my mouth, someone had a bigger problem, a better story, a more important need. If you've ever had that moment where you finally said the quiet part out loud to your family, you know the particular quality of silence that follows. It's like the air becomes glass, sharp and fragile and dangerous. You're being dramatic, Mom said, her go-to accusation when anyone called her on anything. We've always supported you. Name one time, I challenged. One specific time you supported me. We paid for your life, Dad exploded. Food, shelter, clothing. The legal minimum required to not get arrested for child neglect, I interrupted. You gotta go to MIT, David said, like it was a gift they'd given me. On a full scholarship I earned myself while you were passed out drunk from your sixth victory lap as a fifth-year senior. This is exactly why we're concerned, Mom said, switching tactics. You're clearly under stress, making rash decisions. You need family to help you. Stop. I pulled an envelope from my purse, the one I'd been carrying all day, waiting. Before you continue this touching display of concern, you should probably read this. I slid it across the table. David grabbed it first. Of course. His eyes scanned the legal letterhead, the formal language. I watched his face go from confused to shocked to furious. What is this? That, I said calmly, is a copy of the letter I sent to my lawyer yesterday. It's a formal notification that I've updated my will and all associated documents. Mom snatched the letter from David. Updated how? Well, since you're all so concerned about my estate planning, I thought you should know where you stand. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile, which is nowhere. None of you are in my will, not a penny, not a property, not even my coffee maker, which Lori always said she liked. The explosion was immediate. You can't do this. David stood up so fast his chair fell over. We're your family. Lori was actually crying, real tears for once. This is illegal, Dad thundered. We have rights. Actually, you don't, I said. I'm of sound mind, no dependents, and under no obligation to leave anyone anything. I've consulted 3 lawyers. It's ironclad. Who gets it then? Mom demanded. Some charity? The Melissa Chen Foundation, I said. An educational fund I'm establishing for overlooked children in the foster system. Kids who need someone to see them, to believe they matter. Who the hell is Melissa Chen? David demanded. I smiled. A real smile this time. The one person who ever asked me if I was okay and meant it. My freshman year roommate at MIT. She died 3 years ago from the cancer she was trying to cure. She deserved 40 million times more than any of you. Mom stood up, her face twisted with rage. I'd never seen before. You vindictive little. Careful, I warned. I'm also recording this conversation. You know, for my own protection, since you're so concerned about my mental state. That stopped her cold. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. I'm going to leave. You're going to let me. You're not going to contact me again. Not for money, not for connections, not for help with whatever crisis Lori has next week, or whatever deal David's fumbling. Nothing. You can't just cut us off, Lori wailed. I can. I have. It's done. I stood up. You want to know the really pathetic part? If just once, any of you had asked me about my life, my dreams, my struggles, without immediately making it about you, this would have gone differently. We're not perfect, Mom said, trying for maternal wisdom, but we're family. No, I said. You're relatives. Family shows up. Family asks questions. Family gives a damn when you're not useful to them. I looked at each of them one last time. Dad, already calculating if he could contest the will. Mom, mentally spinning this story for her charity friends. David, for once in his life, speechless. Lori, probably already thinking about how to monetize this trauma on social media. Happy Thanksgiving, I said. Enjoy the meal? It's the last thing I'll ever pay for. I walked out to the sound of David throwing something against the wall and Lori screaming about emotional violence. Mom was already on the phone, probably with some lawyer cousin who'd tell her exactly what I already knew. They had no case. The drive back to Brooklyn was peaceful. 3 hours of highway meditation, processing the death of relationships that had never really existed. My phone exploded with texts, voicemails, emails. I ignored them all until I got home. The first text from David, "You're sick. You need help." From Lori, "I'm going to expose you on every platform. Everyone will know what a monster you are." From Mom, "This is not over." From Dad, "You'll regret this when you're old and alone." I deleted them all, blocked their numbers, changed my email. The beautiful thing about money isn't just what it can buy, it's the distance it can create, the walls it can build, the peace it can purchase. That was 2 years ago. David tried to contest the will preemptively, which isn't even legally possible. He spent $10,000 on lawyers before giving up. Lori made good on her threat to expose me. She posted a 12-part TikTok series about toxic wealth and family trauma. It got 47 views total. The comments were mostly people telling her to get a job. Mom sent flying monkeys. Relatives, family friends, even my high school guidance counselor. Each one got the same response. Camille has chosen to prioritize her mental health and wishes everyone the best. Dad sent one last email before I changed addresses. Your mother has cancer. It's stage 2. Thought you should know. I did know. I'd been anonymously paying for her treatment at Sloan Kettering for 6 months. Because here's the thing they never understood. I'm not them. I don't let people suffer just because they hurt me. I just don't let them hurt me anymore. The Melissa Chen Foundation has sent 17 kids to college so far. Full rides, books, housing, everything. Kids who were invisible in their foster homes, their group homes, their biological homes. Kids who learned to be quiet to survive. Kids who nobody ever asked if they were okay. Each one writes me a letter when they graduate. They don't know who I am. The foundation maintains my anonymity. But they tell me their dreams, their struggles, their victories. They tell me someone seeing them changed everything. Last week, one of them wrote, "I used to think being invisible was my fault. Like I wasn't interesting enough to be seen. Now I know invisible people aren't boring. We're just surrounded by people who refuse to look." I keep that letter on my desk, next to a photo Melissa took of us freshman year. 2 18-year-old girls who nobody expected much from, laughing over terrible dining hall food at 2 a.m., planning to change the world. She died believing I'd do something that mattered. She was right. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never walked back into that dining room. If I'd stayed on that deck 5 more minutes, let them finish their scheming, pretended I hadn't heard. Would I have waited for them to approach me with their concern? Would I have given in, the way I always had, just to avoid the confrontation? But that's the thing about being invisible for so long. You become an expert at watching people when they think nobody's looking. You see who they really are, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. My family thought my invisibility was weakness. Really, it was reconnaissance. 38 years of watching them reveal themselves, over and over, in ways they'd never dare if they thought I was paying attention. The money just forced their hand, made them show their cards. But the game? The game was over the moment they decided I only mattered when I was useful. If you're watching this, and you've ever had to walk away from family who only saw your worth when it benefited them, this is your sign that you did the right thing. Blood doesn't make someone family. Love does, respect does, showing up does. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong, it's proving you were right to leave.